But we can tell you both these defendants did plead guilty.
Two men accused of a deadly bank robbery and chase in Stockton have pleaded guilty
to the murder of hostage Misty Holt-Singh. We can tell you Jaime Ramos is facing life in state prison without a possibility of parole, and Ruvalcaba is facing 25 years to life in prison. Now, they were both part of a bank robbery in July of 2014. It was at the Bank of the West in Stockton. 3 masked men went into the bank with guns. Ramos was one of those men. They took 3 hostages and led police on a high-speed chase. It lasted about an hour. Witnesses described that chase as a rolling gun battle.
Through city streets and neighborhoods at speeds of up to 100 miles an hour.
The cop went flying through the intersection. We jumped back onto the sidewalk.
They just drop a hostage on the ground. They just throw her out.
During the chase, the suspects threw 2 of the injured hostages from the vehicle who were bank employees. Police shot out the SUV's tires, disabling the vehicle, but the suspects refused to surrender. Shots rang out, bullets ricocheting off the getaway car as police exchanged gunfire with 3 suspected bank robbers armed with AK-47 style rifles. Striking homes.
We're taking fire. We're taking fire. Get down. Get down.
Well, that was about 300 gunshots.
Eyewitnesses say the scene looked like a war. Continuous gunfire for 5 straight minutes.
Here comes 2 more cops. Oh yeah, he's dead. There's 100 cops here. There's no way he's alive.
Yeah. So he tried to cut through the dirt?
He had to be in that field there.
Is he in the field?
Oh, I don't know where he's at.
There's somebody right there.
Today we are learning that the hostage who died during a bank robbery and police chase in Stockton was killed by police gunfire.
Misty Holt-Singh was killed while police were returning fire at 3 bank robbers and gunmen.
No, that's got to be the police spotter. He was here first.
In Stockton, California, a bank heist straight out of the movies that led to this deadly chase. It all started Wednesday afternoon at this Bank of the West branch. Authorities say 3 robbers made off with money and 3 female hostages. Misty Holt-Singh's cousin says Misty was one of them and that her daughter watched in horror as the robbers dragged her mother away.
She was just going to pull out money. She left her kid in the car. Her daughter has to text her husband saying, hey, they took mom.
Police say the suspect stole a bank employee's SUV and fired AK-47 type assault weapons at police cars in hot pursuit. The hostages there in the car with them. At least 14 other cars struck with stray bullets.
Hostage Misty Holt-Singh died. She was shot 10 times. Stockton police say Ramos used her as a human shield. Well, we talked to Singh's husband on the phone today. He says the news brings up pain again. Misty's family did not want to talk on camera today, but sent this statement through their attorney. The Singh family was saddened to receive the ballistic information concerning Misty's death. The manner in which Misty's life was taken raises serious questions and concerns.
Inside the SUV were also 3 women who had been taken hostage during the robbery. 2 were employees. The third was a customer whose 12-year-old daughter was waiting outside the bank when the robbery occurred.
There was 3 guys, had 3 guns and 3 hostages, and they had the guns to the hostages' heads, and they were petrified.
Yes, that's why when I looked at her and she was crying, I felt so sorry for her at that moment. I said, you know, her daughter's outside, and then when they took her, you know, we were all crying and we were nervous. We were nervous because we can hear the commotion, you know, through the police officers. You know, the noise and the shooting, you know.
You could see their faces. Oh, their faces were white. They were just so scared.
Police say the brazen bandits took the 3 women hostage, firing off their weapons and using them as human shields as they fled the scene in an employee's SUV.
And they surrounded the car, and they couldn't shoot at them because they were so close to the hostages, and they just drove right out of the parking lot right here.
Police set off in a pursuit, a high-speed chase that lasted nearly an hour, winding through residential neighborhoods, bullets striking homes.
They were trying to kill our police officers because 14 patrol cars being riddled with bullets shows a definite attempt to kill the police.
Police shot out the SUV's tires, disabling the vehicle, but the suspects refused to surrender and exchanged a final volley of gunfire. The police swarmed the SUV and apprehended 2 suspects. A third was fatally shot. One of the suspects died later in a hospital. Also discovered in the vehicle was Misty Holt-Singh, a bank customer, dead of gunshot wounds. She leaves behind a husband and daughter.
I was in the Bank of the West, and I was sitting in the chair waiting for my husband to return to pick me up. I was done with my banking. And then all of a sudden, these men ran in and saying this is a holdup. And they had guns. And then it was happening so fast that they had the security guard. And then somebody had jumped over where the bank teller is and asked for money. And took the bank teller to the back to the vault. And they were asking for keys to the vault, you know. And I didn't know if they took any money. I'm sure they did. But it happened so quickly that they were telling everybody, lay down on the ground, lay down on the floor, don't move, you know. And then Misty was crying because she was saying that her daughter was alone in the car. And we were looking at her, who would leave their child in the, you know, in the car? And then we're thinking, teenager maybe, you know. And so she says, I don't want my daughter to see me coming out with you. And they said, don't worry, nothing's going to happen. And they took her anyway, you know, because the police were there. And they took the store manager and another teller. And the store manager had her keys, and she was going to give them to the robber. But he says, no, you're coming with us. You're driving. So they took them out to the front door because they were asking to go out the back door, but there is no back door. So they had the guns to their heads and they walked out the front door. When they found out that the police officers were there, they said, we're going to take hostages.
They said that?
Yes.
They used those words?
Yes.
And how did they determine who they would take?
Whoever, I don't know, they just grabbed Misty, and the bank teller the manager had her keys, and another one. They needed somebody else, and so she was standing next to the bank manager, and Misty was on the floor. All the other men were behind the desk, you know, on the floors. But they didn't want no men, they wanted women. When she was on the ground, she kept saying, don't hurt me, don't hurt me. My daughter's outside waiting. You know, she's in the car. And so...
what did they tell her?
Don't worry, don't worry. Don't worry. You know. And then I guess what they were trying to say is that nothing's going to happen to you guys. You're just going with us to guard them. But
you feel like you have a connection with Misty now?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
I saw in her eyes, you know, that she was scared and that this is going to be it, you know. She didn't want to go.
You reached out to her husband.
Yes.
And what do you want to talk to him about?
I wanted to let him know that he loved her family very much, especially her daughter. And that's all she was thinking about, her daughter outside in the car waiting for her. And that she didn't want to see her like that. But she did. Because she called her dad right away that, you know, that's what I heard, that she called her dad that they took her mom. That is very sad. So we all were crying and praying inside, you know, hoping that no harm will come to them. But they did.
Is live in Stockton for us tonight with more on the investigation and more on what the victim's family has to say. Melinda.
Well, we did talk to the police chief today. He says every member of this department is saddened to hear this news. And we did talk to Misty Holt-Singh's family, and they too are sad to hear what happened on that day, July 17th.
And every one of us wishes this tragedy had ended differently.
The surviving suspect in the car chase is 19-year-old Jaime Ramos, who is now in custody. Police say Ramos and two other suspects fired more than 100 rounds and used an AK-47.
We know the assailants were not even halfway through their ammo supply by the time the incident ceased and the assailants were stopped. They had about 200 unexpended and unfired rounds, bullets, still in the vehicle.
Police fired more than 600 rounds back. Chief Jones says the entire community was at risk, and he says the department has vowed to look into its procedures.
In this video right here, posted by YouTuber Aaron Seeger, the video camera captures 33 police officers riddling an SUV with over 600 rounds. Inside the SUV are 3 bank robbers and 1 hostage. The police officers know the hostage is in the vehicle the whole time, and yet they continue to open fire.
A California woman taken hostage during a bank robbery was killed by police as they riddled a vehicle in which she was held with over 600 bullets, despite knowledge that she was inside. Something the family of the murdered hostage says is, quote, excessive and unreasonable force. Misty Holt-Singh, along with 2 other women, was taken hostage by robbers at the Bank of the West in Stockton, California, as her 12-year-old daughter watched the 41-year-old mother of 2 beg the men not to allow her daughter to see them take her. Misty was crying, one witness said. She was saying her daughter was alone in the car. She said, "I don't want my daughter to see me coming out with you." And they said, "Don't worry, nothing's going to happen." And they took her anyway. Unfortunately, the robbers were unable to account for the actions of police during what would be a nearly hour-long high-speed chase that spanned 55 miles. The police trapped the surrounded car, a development that could have been good news for the frightened victim. Unfortunately for her, we live in the United States where trigger-happy police are not much concerned with collateral damage. Stockton police opened fire on the car, 33 police officers riddling it with over 600 bullets despite knowing that Holt-Singh was still inside. Police say robbers opened fire first, unleashing a barrage of 100 bullets at him. But Holt-Singh's family says they were excessive in the response. Ultimately, the mother was served and protected with at least 10 police-issued bullets. Misty Holt-Singh died from gunshots fired by police officers as they confronted the bank robbers who used her as a human shield. Instead of taking responsibility for her death, police have charged the lone surviving suspect, Jaime Ramos, with her murder. Whether or not police opening fire was warranted, how unqualified and untrained do you have to be to use 600 rounds? 20 of the officers involved have been placed on leave pending an investigation into Holt-Singh's death.
At all the steps officers took on that deadly day, including the fact that police fired at a car with a hostage inside.
What happened to Misty is a nightmare.
The family, along with their attorney, Greg Bentley, held a press conference just days after the killing, asking police for answers, along with video 911 calls and dispatchers' audio tapes.
The family clearly needs answers. I think the community would like answers as to how this incident could happen.
Count them, 35 counts, including 3 counts of murder. 19-year-old Jaime Ramos charged with killing one of the hostages, but today we learned that he's also charged with the killings of the 2 other suspects.
And all 4 people in the vehicle were shot of their wounds, and 1 was taken into custody.
4 men held up a bank of the West and led police on a high-speed chase, ending with a shootout. Suspect Jaime Ramos used his hostage, Misty Holt-Singh, a mother of 2, as a human shield. She was caught in the crossfire and died. Ramos was facing the death penalty, but now will get life without parole. Another suspect, Pablo Ruvalcaba, will get 25 to life for his role. He drove the robbers to the bank. Again, both pleaded guilty to murder.